But many of you heard in the beginning that we said that we just came back from Brazil. We go to Brazil and there's a church there. So I'm going to be mentioning faith. So if that is not your thing, if you don't care anything about that, feel free for the next 6 or 7 minutes just to turn your sound off. But I'm going to be sharing a little bit because Pat just shared how the pastor had spoken. We trust this pastor and we lean into faith. And he said to us, he really believed that God was going to be doubling our ministry influence and doubling the business. He doesn't really know what we do fully in business because we don't cross those lines when we're ministering, overseas or anything. But we took that to believe it's not just us, because if he's doubling our business is you. So that means he's doubling your business. He's doubling each one of you. It's going to open the floodgates. So I want you to know, if you're weary and if you're tired, I need you to get a yet mentality. It may not have happened yet, but yet it matters. And that's what I want you to take hold of, because I have learned regardless, yet it matters. Everything you do matters, and it's time to grab a yet mentality, because you matter, your family matters, your future matters, your dreams matter. Have you forgotten that? The excitement that you had when you first started coaching? I was asking some leaders right before about wins they were having, and each one of them, you know what they talked about? Not about their wins. They talked about how excited coaches on their team was, that they were, how excited they were about changing lives. And have you ever had a season though, where it felt like you just wanted to say, does it really matter? But I want to tell you, can I just tell you, it does matter. You get to change lives. You get to awaken hope. You get to awaken people to their destiny, and you get to actually be an agent of change that leads the charge of change in people's lives. And I just want you to know that tonight, I hope by the time this training is over, that you press forward, that you press the forward button in your business, in your life. Because you know what, Pat and I didn't become coaches because it was a fad. We really thought really long and hard about becoming coaches. We didn't become coaches because it was something cool to do or because we felt pressured into it. We became coaches because we realized we had a tool in our hands to rescue people out of the lives that they were living in. And that's what we are. We are rescuers. We are lifeguards. We are on watch for those who need what we have to offer. But there's times, even in our lives, where it feels like, does it really matter? And I just want you to know, because many of you know my story, but I've been there. I've been there in those moments where I felt like, does it really matter? And I kept going. In the dark times, in the dark seasons, I showed up. And trust me, it wasn't because I felt like it. I showed up. I even faked my way through in order to show up. Because when I was diagnosed with leukemia, guess what? We were coaches, but I showed up for trainings. I showed up for my clients. I showed up for my coaches because it mattered. But I've learned that when you hit the hard season, that's when you're the closest to your breakthrough. How many of you are ready for a breakthrough? I mean, just give me a nod. I mean, you're just ready for a breakthrough. And I'm going to read a scripture, if that's okay with everybody, but if it's not, turn your sound off. 1 Peter 4:13 says, friends, when life gets really difficult, don't jump to the conclusion that God isn't on the job. Instead, be glad that you're in the very thick of it, of what Christ experienced. This is a spiritual refining process with glory just around the corner. So I can tell you, I really believe that glory is right around the corner for us in our lives and our businesses. And it's the season where faith has to rise up and override your fear. You have to get to that point, because when we got back from Brazil, seeing 15,000 women waiting for their breakthrough, waiting for their miracle. We traveled, some of those women traveled from all over the world to be there just to receive at that conference. They sacrificed financially, time, being away from their families. They fought to be in the room. And we saw thousands touched on it that day. And when Pat spoke at the church, Sunday morning and Sunday night. But 6 years ago, I just want y'all to know, 6 years ago, I spoke at that same conference. 6 years ago, the exact same time, but I was different then. It was different then because that time, 6 years ago, I was suffering with leukemia. I had leukemia and I didn't, can I just tell you, even though I knew that I was supposed to go, I didn't want to get on an all-night flight to go to Brazil that time. I didn't want to put my already suffering body, struggling body through that exhaustion. I didn't physically feel like getting on a stage and preaching. I felt like a fraud. I felt like I was faking it. I was speaking on the woman with the issue of blood, and that woman was me during that time. But yet, I was on a mission. I knew I had a purpose. I knew I had to get there. I knew I couldn't just lay down. I did the hard thing, even when I didn't feel like it. When I wanted to lie down and rest and shrink back, I got up and I did the hard things. Somebody in here just needs to type in the chat. If you're feeling like that, if you feel like those moments, you just need to type the word yet in the chat to let people know, hey, yet I'm going to keep going. I may have felt that way, but this is a season to do the hard things, even when you don't feel like it. On that stage 6 years ago, when I didn't feel like going, but I went. The doctor had actually told me, no, you can't go. You're supposed to have bone marrow treatments. And I looked at him and I said, no, I have a purpose. I have a mission. I have to go, not because I feel like it, because it's the right thing to do, because I know there's something on the other side of my exhaustion, on the other side of my struggle. And I went, and 6 years ago on that stage, when I didn't feel like being there, God spoke to me that I was healed. And I came back. I went to the oncologist. I asked him to test my blood one last time in a season where I was struggling just to get out of bed in the morning. And I went and I did the hard things anyway. And the oncologist came in and he spoke to me and he said, I can't explain it. I don't know what happened, but your blood is completely normal and it's completely healed. And that's what happens when you push through. Emily, do you have that video? I'm going to show a 2-minute video. Just bear with me, because this is what happens when you don't quit, you don't lie down, and you don't give up. After a year of different things, went into the oncologist's office, they drew blood, and the first thing the doctor said when he walked into the room, he said is, I love being able to tell patients that you don't have to come back anymore. And because all of my blood work came back normal today, and that's what we were waiting for. So no bone marrow biopsy and no more blood work, because it all came back clean and there was no explanation for it. He had no explanation for it, but we do. We have an explanation for it. It's God.
See, God told me, two weeks ago that, sorry.
Well,
You go ahead.
God told Pat about 2 weeks ago, he said, the storm is over. The storm's over. Because I have literally struggled for a year and a half with health issues. Many health issues. But the biggest concern...
Don't write a book on rebuilding the altar if you don't want to get attacked.
But this was our biggest concern, was this building behind us. You can see the building behind us, which is
Oncology and Trophy Club,
which
Texas.
is a cancer center. And that was the thing that I've been praying through and fighting through. Every time I've given blood, the blood levels were elevated. And came back today after getting back from Brazil. And for the next blood test, everything came back within normal range. We serve a mighty God. I show you that video for no other reason other than to say it was 6 years ago today, May 23rd, 2018, that God healed me. And I share that with you to say, some of you are walking through seasons where you can't see the light on the other side, and it's difficult, and you're tired and you're weary, but you know that there's some hard things that you can do, that you have to do to push through to see the victory on the other side. And I want you to know it's worth it. Don't give up. Don't quit. Don't lay down. You have dreams. You have purpose. You have goals. And I just want to declare to you tonight, yet I will stay in the battle. Yet I will overcome. Yet, as long as I have breath, I will change lives. How many of you believe that? Do you believe that you still have a yet inside of you? It's when you push through the pain of disappointment and fear and weariness to do what you know you've been called to do that you begin to see the breakthrough and the miraculous take place. Just bear with me. I'm going to read these two scriptures because I think they're very important. So Philippians 3:15 says, so let's keep focused on that goal. Those of us who want everything God has for us, if any of you have anything else, something else in mind, something less than total commitment, God will clear your blurred vision. Let me tell you, God's going to clear your blurred vision. You'll see it yet now that we're on the right track. Let's stay on it. 1 Corinthians 13:12, we don't yet see things clearly. We're squinting in a fog, peering through a mist, but it won't be long before the weather clears and the sun shines bright. We'll see it all then, see it all as clearly as God sees us, knowing him directly just as he knows us. I just wanted to come to tell you that you may not have seen your greatest days yet. You haven't brought on your greatest clients yet. You haven't brought on your greatest coach partners yet. You have not even begun to see the greatness that is ahead of you. So don't quit. Don't take an exit ramp before you get to your destination. Don't get stuck in the cycle of taking the same old exit ramp every time things get difficult. Stay on the path, keep going until God says, this is it, you've arrived. So